If you've ever wanted to add your own lakes and rivers to your valley in Disney Dreamlight Valley, it might be your time. It does seem as though a quasi-terraforming kit is coming to the premium shop. We did get a glimpse of it in the developer update recently, but there has been a few articles that have confirmed that it is in fact a customization kit. What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Oscar's Cozy Corner, your coziest corner on the internet for all things Disney Dreamlight Valley and beyond. So as I just said, there has been a few articles pop up over the past couple of days, and they all seem to have similar wording. So I'm leaning into the fact that this is a press release that's gone out from Gameloft, and they've kind of adapted or just copied chunks of it into their articles. We're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at the river kit. We're going to see what we can work out, what we saw in the developer showcase preview, and hopefully end up deciphering whether we will finally be able to add our own rivers and lakes to our valley. Now, terraforming has been one of those kind of like community requests that has been around for a very long time. However, it is quite difficult for games to implement. I know that there's been a lot of requests in the past for Gameloft to allow us to move the ponds, to allow us to like kind of change the levels of stuff. I mean, ponds and moving those has been the biggest one that I've seen, or the most frequent one that I've seen, but I have seen a few other options thrown around for terraforming. Now, as I just said, I know that it's quite difficult for games to do that, especially when there's things like the secret potato quest, you know, spawning and stuff like that when we have to do events. I guess they don't want us to delete ponds, but maybe moving them around is too much work. So Gameloft have kind of done a different approach, and they're actually giving us a premium shop bundle, which is going to be a kit that is going to allow us to create rivers and lakes. That's more important to me because I like the rivers aspect, but lakes as well, that seems pretty interesting. But let's take a look at the developer showcase, see what we saw in that little preview, and then we'll take a look at the articles and see if we can piece anything else together. So as Gameloft so often do with these developer update previews, they did give us like a first glimpse at the premium shop. And usually this premium shop is kind of like for update day. So this is probably what we'll be seeing on update day. So we will be seeing the max bundle. We will be seeing the Casita wall set. But then down here is what kind of caught everybody's eye, and it says Neverland River Kit. This kind of large item here, and I will say, if we talk about this item for just a sec, this is gorgeous. I love it. I love the way the water looks. I love the fact there's a rainbow going on here. They use kind of like inspiration from the pot of gold we got from the St. Patrick's Day event. It definitely reads Neverland to me. There's a lot of foliage going on. There's some kind of like wood structures as well, some logs and stuff like that going on. So this actually looks like a really, really big item just straight off the bat. So I was kind of immediately like, okay, well, where am I going to put this when I buy it? And then you look at the price and it's 3,750 moonstones, which is quite expensive. But then the kits tend to vary in price depending on what's in them. So we look over here at the Casita wall set, and they're using set over here, which is 1,750, about in line with all of the other wall sets that we have. I do think it's also worth noting that the actual castle walls that we got, so I would consider this the biggest kit that we've had. Some of the other castle walls have had like smaller pieces in or less, but this castle wall was a really fully fleshed out full kit. I think there was something like 20 pieces in it. However, it wasn't called a kit in the premium shop. It was just called Night Castle Wall. And something else to note is this set here of walls with all the pieces in it was only 2,000 moonstones. Now, that was a bargain at the time. We definitely all thought that that was really reasonable for what you were getting, because you were getting a whole suite of items. We were getting different turrets, the windows, all those good pieces, and I've used them a bunch, and I love this castle wall kit. However, coming back to this Neverland River kit, this is actually going to end up being 3,750, which is quite expensive. That is usually reserved for like the tool sets. It's reserved for IP companions and stuff like that. And I do get this is an IP related item. They are calling it the Neverland River kit, so it is specific to Peter Pan, so they are kind of like leaning into that vibe a little bit with this one. But it does just make me wonder what is actually going to be in this kit, because we look at it and it just looks like one item. However, if it's called a kit and it's going to have multiple pieces, what are we getting? Are we getting like different shaped stamps that we can like stamp different ponds? Are we getting things that we can create lakes with? We can create rivers by the sound of it, so we can actually have our own rivers running through the valley. Rest in peace, Touch of Magic rugs. I did love that one, but you know, needs must. I will take running water over a Touch of Magic rug any day of the week. And I will be interested to see if there's pieces that do not have like the big Neverland aesthetic to it. So obviously this has kind of like, I'm not going to call it a mountain, but it has a really big sort of like rocky formation at the back. So it'll be interesting to see if we do get some that are kind of like just water based, or whether they are all going to have some sort of like Peter Pan element to them. All right, I am adding this little section in post after I recorded the first part of the video, because MiniBEA5T from the Dreamlight Leaks Discord, who is one of the leakers and a wonderful friend of the channel, hey MiniBEA5T, he has posted that he thinks this is probably how the river kit is going to be split up. So he does seem to think that actually what we see on this image is what we're going to get, but all the pieces have already been put together. So that actually makes a lot of sense to me, because I was confused why they would show like a river kit, but then only show us one item. And the fact this item looked so huge does make sense that it could be different pieces joined together to show us one way of kind of like assembling it. So as you can see, MiniBEA5T is kind of saying this might be an 8-piece kit, and I definitely see that. So I could see the big waterfall with the rainbow being its own piece. I can then see this side kind of like being one piece with the corner on it. Then the same for the opposite eye. Then the same for the opposite side, because this is kind of like an end piece almost. You can see it wraps around. Again, we've got two other corner pieces down here with different foliage on. We've got an edging piece that has a little bit of water. Then we do have a plain water piece right here. And then another kind of like four-sided piece with a couple of rocks and stuff in to the left of it. This does kind of seem more obvious now when I look back on it, so it does make sense to me. Thank you, MiniBEA5T, for pointing this out in the Dreamlight Leaks Discord. I'm excited to see how it turns out and excited to see what they do. But I think you might be pretty spot on. Hopefully there might be like a couple of extra pieces that we haven't seen, just so it's, I don't know, a little bit more of a surprise. Maybe there could even be like a bridge section or something like that that just kind of like walks over the water. But on the whole, I think this is probably pretty accurate. And everybody say thank you, MiniBEA5T. But yeah, the price, 3,750. I'm expecting something pretty impressive for that. Don't get me wrong, this is almost a feature. We're almost paying for a terraforming feature just through a premium shop item. I can't wait to see if we can connect it to the ponds. Imagine if we were able to actually connect it to the ponds. I don't think that's going to be the case, but it does seem as though it will adapt to the biome that it's in, because it does show here what I think is the wild tangle floor. It's either the wild tangle or perhaps the forest. But hopefully it does kind of like adapt to the biome and it doesn't look too jarring, because we can see kind of just a little bit of a texture change where it goes from green to almost that beige color. So I guess they kind of like just protecting themselves just in case. But let's just jump on over to the articles quickly. They don't reveal too much more, but they do confirm that it is a full customization kit. So Bleeding Cool is one of the kind of like news outlets that has an article on Dreamlight Valley. And we have seen this a few times recently, you know, people covering the developer update and what came with it. But if we scroll down a little bit, we will see just by here, it says the game's premium shop is also getting exciting new additions, including the Max Companion Bundle. The adorable dog from the Disney's Little Mermaid adds canine companionship to the valley and even can dig up buried resources. Then for our players who love to decorate and design their valley, an exciting new item will be available in the shop, the River Crafting Kit. Use it to create your very own lakes and rivers to make your valley even more unique. Now, this is kind of like the first time that it's been referenced outside of Gameloft. They didn't even reference it in the Disney Dreamlight developer update. They just kind of like showed it on screen. But it is good to get confirmation that it will be a customization kit that we can actually create our own rivers and valleys, or lakes, rivers, waterways, systems, canals, everything in the valley of your own accord. If we also come over here to a website called worthplaying.com, that is another website that is just covering like game news and stuff like that. But the reason I think that this has come from Gameloft, and this is a Gameloft press release that they're covering, is if we scroll down, it's kind of in a block quote anyway. But then down here, it basically has exactly the same sentence as Bleeding Cool does. So it says the same thing about Max Companion, and then it's basically exactly the same sentence. For our players who love to decorate and design their valley, an exclusive item will be available in the shop. So that's the reason that I think this has come from Gameloft, which is very exciting, because it is basically our first confirmation that it will be a customization kit. And they're not going as far as calling it a terraforming kit. I don't blame them, because that does feel like it should be kind of like a base game feature if they were ever going to introduce that, rather than a premium shop item that you can kind of like join together and create something. So that's it for this video. I do hope that you enjoyed it. It was just a fun little look at something that is very exciting coming to the premium shop, probably in just over a week. I can't wait to get my hands on this. I literally cannot wait to see what the community do with this. The community is already so creative and so inventive with what we have in the game. Adding these sorts of like features and items is just going to take that decor and that creativity to new heights. And I cannot wait to see what we do with it. Fingers crossed there are some versions that are not like totally overdone with foliage. Fingers crossed there are some versions that will just let us place like small lakes and ponds, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. I literally can't wait to see how we're gonna join it together. Maybe we can create a lazy river. That would be a dream. Imagine if we could create a lazy river and then I could put the swan boat on it and it cycle around. I might be getting a little bit into Planet Coaster there, but what can I say? I love the parks. I'm going to leave it there for today. I will catch you in the next one. Enjoy the hype train while we wait for the next update, and I will, of course, see you in the valley.